Again. That thing ain't light. Excelsior! The Hemi doesn't care. That thing is quite heavy, though. Hi, I'm Jamie. This is Dead Dodge Garage, and this is the fabulous Hudson Hornet. Hang on, I gotta do some research. Another beautiful summer day in Grays Harbor. Okay, to be fair, it has been dry for the better part of a month. If you follow my channel, or even if you've just seen my channel name, Dead Dodge Garage, you know the main thing I focus on is classic Chrysler products, like this crappy no longer turboed Valiant, for example. I've also recently made a foray into front-wheel drive Chrysler products for some reason. Tin-grilled Dodge trucks are a favorite, and the landscape is littered with them. And of course, muscle-ish era Chrysler products like the A-bodies and the slightly larger B-bodies. These are my happy place. These are the cars I work on day in and day out, and I make lots of videos about them. Beyond my status as a Mopar nutjob, though, I do have a general interest in all classic American cars, especially those from less-known underdog-type brands, like Studebaker, for example. I've featured several of these on the channel over the years. I don't really want to talk about the fact that this one is still sitting here untouched and getting eaten by Mother Nature. So much for the barn find dust. In the 20-year period after World War II, the vast majority of smaller car companies either merged or disappeared entirely. I'd hazard a guess that most younger people aren't aware that brands like Hudson, Studebaker, Nash, or Kaiser ever even existed. So when I can feature one of these less-known makes on the channel, well, I'm going to do that. Now, the Hudson Hornet, in this original body style anyway, was only produced from 1951 until 1954. This particular example is a 1952. Incidentally, and completely unrelated, 1952 is the year my dad was born. Though the Hornet name was new for 1951, this basic body already existed in the Hudson Commodore. New for 1948, it was actually a relatively revolutionary design at the time. This generation of cars was known as Hudson's step-down design, and you can actually see why it was called that right here. You see, the floor panel is below the rocker, so when you get into one of these cars, you step down into it. This design was achieved by moving the outer frame rails out from underneath the car to the perimeter of the car. In fact, it's hidden behind the rocker right here. The body slots down around it, and if we move this flexible covering, we can kind of see the end of it and a stringer that comes out from the front subframe assembly. Here at the back of the rocker, looking in through the opening where there should be a fender skirt, we can see the frame rail curving upward, hidden behind the body here, outside of the wheel. It then curves inward to meet this frame member at the back. This layout bears an unmistakable resemblance to what we know today as unibody or unitized construction, wherein the body and frame are combined into one. In those cars, the rockers are essentially the frame rail, with a subframe in the back and a subframe in the front, all of which is welded solid to the body. But again, that's not actually the case here, and the body and frame are in fact separate. The Hornet benefits from this design in a variety of ways. The most important is probably a low center of gravity. Obviously, the floor panel is further down than in a conventional design of this time, so there's more weight down low between the wheels, but also that allows the roofline to be lowered and interior space to remain essentially the same. This lower center of gravity helped give the Hudson excellent handling characteristics compared to contemporary American cars. This, among a couple other important features, would help the Hornet come to dominate certain classes of racing in America. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I've already mentioned that the Hornet is essentially a rebadged Hudson Commodore. This wasn't anything out of the ordinary in the 1950s American car landscape. I've discussed this idea in previous videos on cars like Perky, my 1959 Plymouth Taxi. This same body could have been the base taxi model it is, the very similar Savoy, a slightly upscale Belvedere, or the super fancy high-performance Plymouth Fury. They're all the same basic body, albeit in different body styles: sedans, hardtops, convertibles, etc. The Hornet was intended to be a more exciting, performance-oriented model. Even so, they were still sold as base sedans, as this one is, in a 2-door or a 4-door variant. There were hardtops, and there were even convertibles. This rear trim piece is currently missing, but I enjoy the fact that it goes over the body line where it turns down here to attempt to make the Hornet look like something it's not: a different car. I also enjoy the fact that this trim spear and the body line it sits right below do not quite align correctly, particularly on the fender there. The rocket-shaped Hornet emblem with the H built into it there, well, that's very cool. This detail on top of the fender is super cool too. Very Art Deco. Reminds me of like a streamlined train. The overall styling of the body is interesting. It's quite long, or it certainly appears to be quite long, partially because the roofline is so low. That roofline sort of has a fastback thing to it. The short side glass contributes to the extremely long appearance of the car. The lower body area kind of has the appearance of an upside-down clawfoot bathtub. Bathtub styling turns out to have been kind of a thing among the smaller American automakers from about 1948 into the early and mid-1950s. Nash's in particular are referred to by this moniker. Now, I don't really know who was copying who when it comes to this general design language. Packard had this in 1948. It's similar to the Hudson with a continuous line front to back and curved ends, again resembling an upside-down bathtub. But Hudson had their car in 1948 too, so I don't know, maybe these designers just had a big meeting and decided this was the way to go. The Nash version of the bathtub design came in 49, and it really takes the look to the extreme. You've got that flat slab side, the elongated nose, and the funky sucked-in grille. The design similarities with Nash are particularly interesting because a few short years later, Nash and Hudson would merge to create AMC, but that's kind of another story. Front wheel opening on the Hudson, vastly superior in that, it looks like a normal wheel opening. The rear is very interesting though. With those skirts in place, this is a straight line all the way forward to the front of the rocker. The rear view of this car doesn't quite match the rest of it. This kind of looks like, I don't know, an early Mercedes? Yeah, you know what it is? From this angle, and only this angle, it kind of looks like a 300 SL. Obviously lacking gull wings. And the quarter panels are shaped differently, but still, get it? It's a Hornet. Here's our first look inside the Hornet. There are some interesting things in here. Mostly, it just kind of looks like the early 1950s. The big pod gauges with fuel and temp here in the middle. Also an amp light, I guess. There's a shifter behind the steering wheel, which is gigantic. There's no horn button right now, but there are a couple different ones sitting here on the seat. I like the gold. Oh, there's a complete spare gauge cluster in here. That might be important later. I kind of thought the gauges in the dash were like horribly faded, but actually this is some crazy tortoiseshell finish. And the numbers look like they're made out of leather or something. This car apparently has 86,222.5 miles. Gigantic clock. Apparently the heating system in this car is called weather control. Nope. Might actually work. Unlike most classic Chrysler products. Here's the weather control module itself, festooned with a beautiful Hudson badge. We've got more spare parts in the glove box here, like another set of the center gauges. Look at how much space there is back here that is completely useless. What's it, 2.5 feet from the back of the back seat to the back window there? It's a huge package shelf. I guess you could actually put packages on it in this car. This is interesting. In the middle of the back seat, there's a big, gigantic fold-down armrest. That's incredible. Every 50s car leaks right here at the side of the back seat. Every single one of them. At least every one I've ever seen. Pull handles, like my taxi has. There are actually all kinds of cool interior details to find. Like this grab handle rope across the entire back of the front seat. You've got actual handles at the end. I think my Imperial has handles like that. There's also this big, gigantic storage bag thing. The sun visors aren't installed right now, but look at the way they mount. They swing out on this big, crazy arm. This is kind of unfortunate, but there's all kinds of other cool stuff to find in here. We've got cranks for the vent windows, door handle, main window crank, your own ashtray. Every single door has one of these. I like the way it's all trimmed, and I like the way this is pretending to be wood. There's also a badge here on the inside of the door. It says 145 inside an H. What the heck is that about? To answer that question, I have to open the hood, which is done like this. Yeah, there's a handle up in there. That was fun to find. Is this a convenience light in the door jamb? That's pretty slick for 1952. Rather predictably, under the hood of the Hudson Hornet, we've got a Flathead 6. But it's not just any Flathead 6. This one is gigantic, and it appears to say twin H-Power on it. Twice. Viewed from the passenger side here, I can make out the number 308. Yes, this is a 308 cubic inch inline 6-cylinder Flathead engine. In case you don't know, Flathead engines, with the valves mounted in the block actuated by a camshaft, were pretty much the way in American car production for decades and decades. In fact, it wasn't until the early 1950s, around the time this Hudson was made, that these were starting to go the way of the dodo bird. You see, it was 1951 when Chrysler first released their overhead valve V8 Hemi engine. And this pretty much put the writing on the wall for Flathead designs. In 1952, the year our Hornet project was built, Chrysler's DeSoto brand got their own Hemi, this 276 cubic inch V8. This thing hit the market with 170 horsepower, which was pretty formidable for its day. Hudson, being a smaller company and certainly lacking the funds to develop an OHV V8 of their own, had to make do with the older style Flathead design. However, by virtue of its immense size and the addition of an extra carburetor, this thing was a performer. This badge I showed you says 145 because that is the horsepower output of the standard Flathead 6. However, the Twin H bumped that up to the same 170 that the DeSoto was making in 1952. Why does the badge still say 145? I don't know. Why is it inside the car? I don't know that either. There are other versions of this badge I could find online that say Hornet, and there's a very similar badge for the smaller but closely related Wasp. The Flathead layout is just restrictive. There's only so much you could do with it. There is a reason every modern vehicle today has overhead valves. For this time, this Twin H Hudson actually did pretty impressive stuff. Most impressive? The Hornet absolutely dominated in NASCAR. I've kind of alluded to that racing history already in this video, but I guess we can finally talk about that. Because of that 170 horsepower Flathead bomb, or whatever, under the hood, and the superior handling due to the low center of gravity, the Hudson was a natural for this competition. As a matter of fact, Hudson was the first brand, the first automaker to get involved in NASCAR racing starting in 1952, and they did very well. According to Wikipedia, which we all know is the most accurate source of information on the internet, the Hudson Hornet won 48 first-place finishes and 28 second-place finishes in 1952, which is just incredible. Remember, this is a time when NASCAR was a race between stock cars, hence the name, stock car racing. And in a field of stock cars in 1952, 3, and 4, the Hudson Hornet dominated. It is, of course, this racing history that led to the fabulous Hudson Hornet racer being immortalized in the Disney Pixar movie Cars as Doc Hudson. Here's the real-life Doc Hudson, Marshall Teague's number 6 fabulous Hudson Hornet stock car racer for NASCAR, powered, of course, by the Twin H. The Hornet was restyled for 1954. It's essentially the same car underneath. It's still a step-down Hudson design, but it has a one-piece slightly curved windshield, a redesigned nose, and some different trim and styling on the quarter panel there. To my eye, it strongly resembles a contemporary Mercury. It's a pretty handsome car. Unfortunately, that restyling was too little too late to save Hudson as an individual company. And in 1954, they merged with Nash, creating what would become AMC. The Hudsons sold from 55 through 57 were just rebranded Nashes, and the party was over. But the party is not over for this 1952 Hornet sedan. This car has been preserved and maintained all of these years. It's been stored inside, it's not rusting to bits, and it's ripe and ready for a revival. This car belongs to a gentleman named Wes. Wes and I have been talking about rewiring this car for 6 years now. And today, I'm finally going to get started on that. Well, not today. And before I can do any wiring, I think it's probably a good idea to make sure this Flathead Twin H still runs. Wes has a somewhat eclectic collection of classic American cars. He has 2 Hudson Hornet sedans with Twin H power. He has another Hudson of the Bathtub design. I believe that is a Commodore, probably a 51 or maybe a 52, which was the last year. And he also owns a 1946 Commodore. That car I've done some tuning on, and I converted it to 12 volt years ago. A 12 volt conversion is a really nice upgrade for a car like this. For one thing, you have more options for buying a battery and getting a jump start if your car is dead on the side of the road or something. Also, 6 volt cars crank like absolute garbage. Found the pry bar. You'll probably want that back. Anyway, here we have a Ford branded 6 volt battery. It is totally dead despite having sat on a battery charger for a little while earlier. This is a replica Ford battery that says Antique Auto Battery on the bottom. There's no date code, and I have a feeling it's complete and total garbage. Oh, this is just a cover on an Optima 6 volt battery. Well, that's good to know. Optimas need a special charging mode to not die. Yeah, that ain't enough volts. While I'm thinking about it, I decided to give the gas tank a sniff. it's not good. Maybe this thing's been sitting longer than I thought. I know he said he drove this car around for a time, but maybe that time was the 90s. Now, I have personally proven time and time again that it's very easy to start and run a 6-volt rig with a 12-volt battery. All you need to do is disconnect the generator and the voltage regulator, and most likely nothing will burst into flames. Your light bulbs will have a tendency to blow out, so you don't want to turn those on. You definitely don't want to turn on the radio or any of the other accessories, really. But running the ignition this way for a brief time, probably not going to be an issue. So if... Now, let's be honest with ourselves, when that battery is garbage, we'll probably just do that. Currently, though, I got a rumbly in my tumbly, so we'll get back to this project tomorrow. Look at that fine machine. You know, the more I look at this thing, the more I think it looks like a car from Peppa Pig. Does anyone else see that, or is that just a me thing? Anyway, I had to move the Hudson for a bit. Currently shuffling every single car in the shop. One has to leave so this thing can go inside. It's about to rain on all my prized possessions. Again. What? I am shocked by this development. I am beside myself with surprise. Yeah, it didn't take a charge at all. Well, that sucks. It's a little while later and I've done the generator delete, by which I mean I just took the wires off that go from the generator to the voltage regulator. That should prevent any fires. I removed the air cleaner so I can trickle some gas down the carbs in a minute here. And now I'm working on the breaker points. It's pretty typical to have to scrub these to get spark after one of these vehicles sits for years and years. I use a little flat file like this. You can also use a nail file, a folded over piece of sandpaper. Many times I'll just use a flathead screwdriver and kind of jam it in here and scrub off horrible corroded bits. It's probably obvious, but the idea here isn't to take a bunch of material off the points. That could mess up your adjustment and just ruin them. You really just want to get the nasty corrosion out of there so you can get a good ground through them. Now, scrubbing the points is something I've discussed many times. As a matter of fact, I'm sure countless YouTubers have done videos showing exactly the same thing, so hopefully that part of it makes sense. Something I don't think I have discussed before, though, is a way to test the points after you scrub them and make sure they're actually going to work. To do this, I'm going to use my multimeter set on the beep mode. This is a continuity test. If you were to touch the two probes together, it beeps. That shows that there's a connection between the two. We can test our points like this, with one probe here and the other on the point body there, that strap piece. We should get continuity when these are closed. First, your distributor has to be in a position that the points should actually be closed. You should get a beep, beep, beep. Notice, this is not perfect. It's not 100% of the time. That's because I need to clean them a little bit more. Multiple times in the past, I've gotten this to show continuity, but it took more messing around and a bit of cranking before there was a consistent spark. As you can see, we're definitely close to having working points. A little bit more cleanup, and we should have spark here when we crank the engine. As long as this coil's any good anyway. A note about that. I don't know if this is a peculiarity of using a positive ground system or if it's something to do with the way this is set up, but I actually showed some resistance and got a beep across those points when the coil was connected to the key switch here. Popping that off solved it, but my meter was actually beeping all of the time, giving me an incorrect result. Kind of weird. Hopefully there's no horrible shorts or anything in this ignition system. Wes may well have been having problems here. The connections inside the distributor were loose when I got to them, and as a matter of fact, this bolt was out when I picked up the car. I actually found that bolt on top of the battery and put it back in so it wouldn't get lost. The coil positive wire was also loose. I don't know what was going on previously. I just know what I can see now. I'll just eyeball this in the middle of the slot, and that should be close enough to run. See this horribly crispy cloth wire? That is a big part of why we're going to be redoing the entire electrical system in this car. Check out this crazy fuel pump situation. It looks like a typical mechanical fuel pump wearing this crazy vacuum hat. Now, I don't know if this is a vacuum assist for the pump or what that is. It's just got a single line coming off of this manifold pipe, which is split between the bases of both carbs for some reason. Whatever it does, I've disconnected the frame line from the fuel tank, so we won't be pulling in horrible, stinky 15-year-old or whatever gas. I did notice a little pool of antifreeze down here. Wish I hadn't. Radiator's empty. Okay, we're not going to be running it for long. I did check the oil. The dipstick is kind of hard to find and even harder to reach. It's full and clean and pretty, so I feel good about that. Yeah, we're not getting anywhere over here, so this stupid thing's going in the core pile, and I'm going to grab a 12-volt battery. Battery is in. Note, I do still have this routed positive ground, or positive earth if you're in England or wherever. When I rewire this thing, it'll definitely be swapped over to negative. 0 signs of life so far. Let's see what happens. Okay, there's an oil warning. Gauges are not moving. Does it crank? No, it doesn't. Do I need to do this? There we go. Nice. 6-volt starters always love 12 volts, except when they don't. I haven't said a thing about this transmission control yet, so I guess this would be a good time to address that. This column shifter is attached to a GM hydromatic transmission. Hudson bought these and installed them in their cars from 51 until, I don't remember, the end, I think. Note it's in neutral now, but it was parked in reverse. Apparently, reverse is park when the engine is not running in one of these. When you fire it up, you need to shift it to neutral, and then once it's running, that's reverse. Now, the hydromatic is actually a 4-speed transmission. It shifts itself through all 4 of those gears. You can manually shift it down into 3rd or low. I don't know if that goes all the way to 1st or if that's just 2nd. It needs to be in N for starting. Now, I do hear one slightly weak cylinder there. Pay attention to that. That might be important later. Notice there are 2 positive battery cables here. This one's connected right below the battery tray. This one goes to the actual block, so this is the one I'm using. I've got the key on now, so I can control whether we've got battery power or not here. Note, there's no spark. So one of 2 things is true. Either the points are not giving us continuity to charge this coil, or the points are open right now. I'm going to carefully bump the engine over with a screwdriver on the relay here. Let's see if we get zaps now. No. Okay, so I need to do more fiddling here. No, I just didn't bump it far enough. Watch the opening in those points while I crank the engine. Oh, I don't know if you can see it, but I can see it and I can hear it. It's got a nice, consistent spark. Now, this is not 100%, but if you see a spark in there, you are almost certainly getting a spark out of your coil. Whether it's the strongest spark and whether it's actually reaching the plugs, well, that's another matter. But more than likely, we've got a good coil here and our ignition is actually working. So what I'm going to do now is give this thing a little drink of gas. I'll tell you right now, it's going to want a lot more than that, but I'm running out. According to my calculations, this thing should start or burp or cough or fart or something. Let's see. Nice. What a unit. I actually do have a gallon or 2 here. This can was sitting in the back of the 79 Power Wagon for 6 months, but I think this fuel is still good. I don't remember where I got it. Someone gave me this, I think. Anyway, it's a boat tank with a line on it. It's also got a hand primer bulb, although I'm not sure it does anything. You know it's good because it's got my name on it. It's even got the right number of T's. It smells terrible inside, but we're not going to worry about that. I'm going to throw some of that fuel in here and, I don't know, maybe stuff will happen. I did remove the plastic nozzle end thingy. Obviously, that's not going to connect to a 1952 Hudson. How much water was supposed to be in there? Just wondering. This is actually really cool looking. It's not good in any way, but it is cool. You know, it's actually my birthday today, and fully covering myself in gasoline was not the kind of party I had in mind. Anyway, let's see if this continues to run now. I primed the carbs again, and I've got that boat tank plumbed to the mechanical pump. It's also primed all the way down to that pump, so if it's gonna work, it'll work now. Oop, bad aim. Stay. Oh, come on. The timing might be a little late. Ah! Obviously, we don't have any accelerator pump. Oh, it's not happy at all. Why is this linkage unclipped? sounds great. No mechanical noise. Kind of smells like burning rat turds, but other than that, like it was shut off yesterday. Yeah, smokes a little bit. It's missing the return spring for the rear carb, and the clip is off. I think I actually saw it over there a bit ago. Oh, the clip's off of the front one too. Obviously it doesn't want to take much throttle. We already know the fuel quality leaves something to be desired, and we can't run this thing for long, but that is cleaning up nicely. Incredible. Okay, as mentioned, it's low on coolant, but it's not out of coolant. And just that little bit of running was enough to open the thermostat and circulate some stuff through there. I burned my hand. The smell was interesting. It's kind of like burning brush, I guess. I had no doubts it was going to start. It's not like it's been sitting for decades and decades or anything, but man, it runs good. Well, now this is interesting. The gauges are actually kind of doing something. The fuel is going up to there. Of course, remember, it's seeing much higher voltage than it's supposed to right now, so that's probably twice as high a reading as it should have. If we let it sit this way too long, we are at risk of damaging the gauge, which I don't want. The million-dollar question is, does the brake pedal do anything? It does something. It's not going to the floor. And the bajillion-dollar question, is the transmission any good at all? Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. World's easiest revival. Random science corner. What, if anything, does ISO heat, water remover, do to this horrible mess? Maybe half of it will just disappear. Do I need to shake it? Dude, that actually did something. There was a separation line like here, and that is gone. You can kind of see a clear section right at the top, but it's very, very different. I'm gonna let it settle for a while and see if it magically reappears. Repositioned the truck and trailer so I can get the Hudson off. Found this under the car. This appears to be a tiny pair of pliers that was dropped and was sitting carefully, delicately balanced on the exhaust pipe. It has since fallen off, obviously, and taken some exhaust pipe with it. That is cool. Time to find out if that parking pawl is any good. Carefully. Yeah, nice. Oh, I just found the battery hold down dangling under here. Everybody think careful thoughts. 6-volt starter. What an amazing machine. How melted on the exhaust should this fuel line be immediately? Asking for a friend. Added a gallon of coolant. Made a mess. Clipped that throttle linkage on. This one's missing a clip too, but I think that's fine. Installed a throttle spring on that back carb, so hopefully the throttle won't stick now. And I moved the gas tank over here. I'm sure that will be fine and will definitely not kill me or anyone nearby. But just in case. What could be cooler than this? This is amazing. It's already in second gear. Front brakes aren't doing much, if anything. Need to knock some rust off those, but the fact the pedal does anything at all is incredible. Parking brake works too. Obviously I can't drive it far like this, but gotta test it. Wow. Wow. The Hydromatic uses a fluid coupling. It's not a torque converter like later automatics, so there is no torque multiplication. That is why they have 4 gears, so there are more usable ratios to improve acceleration. This is just incredible. Whee! I don't know how much gas is in that tank, and I know it's terrible, but nice. This is so cool. Yeah. I mean, they're brakes, but they're not great. Oh, oh. I don't know if we're running out of fuel or it's getting grumpy for other reasons. I don't think I can go any further than down the block with it how it is. It's just, it barely stops. And again, you know, gas tank carefully balanced on top of the engine. Better not push my luck. What a cool machine. Fresh air cowl vent, nice, because 1940s technology, or 30s or whatever. Oh, I haven't shown you this. You might have noticed the antenna, it's out of fuel. Anyway, you might have noticed the antenna, the aerial in the middle of the roof, it actually retracts. Well, it doesn't retract so much as it flips down out of the way with this little knob. I don't know why. I can think of no reason why you need to retract that, but it's cool. Oh, it's not out. Ah! It's just got too many horse torques. It fits in here, but I can't get it all in frame. Too long. Anyway, this is an incredible machine. It clearly wants to live. It's got some, well, I'm not going to say power, but I think it has the potential to be fun enough. I, for one, am very much looking forward to actually driving this down the road. Oh, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a bunch of paint flaking off. That is because this isn't a factory white car. This is a, let's say, crappy repaint. It's actually supposed to be root beer brown. Dude, the convenience lights do work here on the passenger side. Hudson, all steel, mono built, body and frame. Disconnecting the battery on your Classic is always a good idea, but especially in this case. I really don't want any fires in here. Well, that's gonna have to do it on the Hudson for now. I've got a lot of projects going on currently. Like, a lot. But in the coming weeks, I'll be diving in on this car. Obviously, I need to get it running on the fuel tank again. It could probably use some kind of tune-up, although to be honest, after running for a bit, this thing sounds incredible. Most of the time. We need an electrical system, and to that end, I will be fully hand-building a conversion harness, swapping this thing over to 12 volt, and going through all of the steps to make the things in the car that should work. Like gauges and lights and maybe a heater. That would be nice. While it's here, I might just be obligated to clean it up a little bit. I'm not talking about like a full restoration or anything, but I don't know, vacuum out the mouse turds, give it a bath. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing this sweet machine, and hopefully you'll join me for future adventures with it. Until then, as ever, I do thank you very much for watching. And remember, Hudson Hornet, it's beautiful. Oh yeah, look at this. I'm assuming that is still water, but the rest of this is all one fluid together now. Magic? Is this burnable fuel? How does this work? There's no less liquid. It's witchcraft, I think. All right, get along, you two.